Hey there, Letters Daily family. What time are you watching this video, and where are you tuning in from? Drop a comment below, I'd love to hear from you. Alright, let's dive right into today's letter and see what unfolds.
It was just another mundane afternoon, or so I thought. The day had been routine, work, lunch, and a few errands. But as I sat at my desk, I glanced at the clock, noting the time, 3 p.m. Moments later, or so it seemed, I checked the time again, only to find the clock reading 4 p.m. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't done anything that could account for an entire hour passing. It was as if time itself had been snatched away from me. Panicked, I tried to reconstruct my day, but the hour from 3 o'clock to 4 p.m. was a complete blank. There were no memories, no events, just a void where an hour of my life should have been. I frantically checked my phone, computer, and every other clock in the house. They all confirmed the same time skip. As the initial shock wore off, I began to question my own sanity. Was I so distracted that I simply lost track of time? But deep down, I knew that wasn't the case. I reached out to friends and family, casually asking if they had noticed anything unusual about the day, but no one else seemed to have experienced the time anomaly. Everything was normal for them, which only intensified my unease. The more I thought about it, the more certain I became that something had happened during that lost hour, something beyond my understanding. I scoured the internet for any explanation: time slips, blackouts, glitches in the matrix. The theories were as wild as they were unsettling, but none fit my experience perfectly. Just as I was beginning to convince myself that maybe it was just a strange, unexplainable occurrence, something happened that sent chills down my spine. As I was about to shut down my computer for the night, a message suddenly appeared on my screen. It wasn't a notification or an email, just a simple text box with an ominous message: "You weren't supposed to notice." I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Who could have sent this? How did they know about my missing hour? And what did they mean by notice? I tried to trace the source of the message, but it seemed to vanish from my system as quickly as it had appeared. The incident left me feeling exposed, like I was being watched. From that moment on, everything felt different. I became hyper-aware of my surroundings, constantly looking over my shoulder, sensing that I was no longer alone. The feeling of being watched grew stronger with each passing day. I would catch glimpses of movement in the corner of my eye, only to find nothing when I turned to look. My sleep was plagued by nightmares, dark, faceless figures standing at the foot of my bed, silently observing me. I began to notice other odd occurrences. My phone battery would drain inexplicably, lights would flicker when I entered a room, and I started hearing faint whispers just on the edge of my hearing. It was as if the world around me was subtly shifting, becoming slightly off-kilter, and I was the only one who could sense it. Determined to uncover the truth, I decided to investigate the missing hour more thoroughly. I began keeping a detailed journal, documenting everything I could remember about the day it happened and the events that followed. I also set up cameras around my house, hoping to capture any unusual activity, but the footage always came back inconclusive, just hours of me moving about my home, doing nothing out of the ordinary. I started reaching out to experts, time theorists, paranormal investigators, anyone who might have a clue as to what was happening. Most dismiss my story as a simple case of memory loss or a psychological episode. But one investigator, an eccentric older man who had seen his share of strange occurrences, listened to my story with grave interest. "You've experienced a time slip," he said, his voice low and serious. "It's rare, but it happens. The fact that you noticed it is what's troubling. Most people don't. And the message? It means you've drawn attention to yourself, attention you don't want." His words haunted me. What kind of attention had I attracted? And who, or what, was behind it? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that the lost hour was just the beginning. I started piecing together fragments of memory, half-remembered images that seemed to come from the depths of my subconscious. I saw flashes of a darkened room, strange machines, and shadowy figures standing around me. I had been somewhere I wasn't supposed to remember. One night, as I was reviewing my journal, I found an entry I didn't remember writing. The handwriting was mine, but the words were unfamiliar. "They took me. They're watching. Don't remember." My hands shook as I read the cryptic message. Had I written it during the lost hour? Or had someone else placed it there, using my own hand? Realizing that the answers weren't going to come easily, I decided to confront the source of my fear directly. I began retracing my steps from the day of the missing hour, visiting every place I had been. My search led me to an abandoned building on the outskirts of town, a place I had never noticed before. The building was decrepit, with broken windows and doors hanging off their hinges, but something about it felt familiar. Inside, the air was thick with dust and decay. As I explored the darkened hallways, I felt a growing sense of dread, as if I was drawing closer to something dangerous. Eventually, I found myself in a small room, empty except for an old, rusted chair in the center. The sight of it sent a wave of terror through me, triggering a flood of fragmented memories, of being restrained, of voices discussing things I couldn't understand, of pain, and of that missing hour. In that moment, everything came rushing back. The lost hour wasn't just an isolated incident, it was part of something much larger, an experiment, a manipulation of time and memory. I had been a subject, taken without consent, and when they realized I had noticed the missing time, they tried to erase the evidence, to make me forget. But they had underestimated me. The message on my computer had been a warning, a final attempt to keep me in the dark. But I knew too much now. As I left the building, I felt a strange mix of fear and empowerment. I had uncovered the terrifying truth, but what would I do with it? I knew that the forces behind this weren't going to let me walk away easily. They were watching, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Since that day, my life has never been the same. I'm constantly on edge, aware that I'm being watched. The feeling of unease never leaves me, and the nightmares continue to haunt my sleep. I've become a different person, more cautious, more paranoid, but also more determined. I've started researching ways to protect myself, to keep my mind intact and my memories safe. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing: I will never let them take another hour from me. The truth is out there, buried beneath layers of secrecy and manipulation, and I'm determined to uncover it, no matter the cost.
If you enjoyed this letter and want more content like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for daily updates. Share your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear your opinions and reactions. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.